Hello, people are starting to come in. I'm gonna wait until 7, so we have a few more minutes, and I'll be sure to start promptly at 7. My presentation's not too long, but I do have notes that I'll be following, so I don't get too sidetracked. I get sidetracked very easily. So I'm gonna mute myself, but I just see more people are starting to come in, and I wanted you to know that I'm not ignoring you. We'll start promptly at 7. Okay, it's 7. Hello. There might be a few more people trickling in. We did a presentation similar to this one in September, and not many people attended live, but a lot of people did watch the recording. So if you know anyone who wanted to kind of catch this, we'll have a recording up on the website as well as the Vernon Township YouTube channel. But my name is Kristen. If you've never spoken with me or if you've never met me, I am the tax assessor in Vernon. I was hired in 2019, so I was here through the revaluation that was done in 2020, as well as now what we're doing is an annual reassessment. And so it was my idea to hold this presentation this evening because it seems number one, annual reassessment is new to Vernon, right? So this is the first time the town has done anything like this. It's also, we're the first town in Sussex County to adapt this method of assessing. And so with that comes a little bit of growing pains and a lot of questions. And so I think it's really good for me to kind of do these every once in a while to inform the public, but also to answer your questions. I do get a lot of the same questions over and over, which is what my presentation is actually based on this evening, is kind of going over the answers to the questions I hear on a regular basis about assessments and about the reassessment or the revaluation or property taxes in general. So I'm going to cover what I'm asked the most. And then at the end, I'll open it up for question and answer. I'm kind of a one-woman show right now, so I am gonna share my screen. I do have a chat window open on another screen. So if you have a question about something I'm talking about, feel free to type it in the chat. And if I notice it, I'll try to answer it right away. If not, hold it to the end. And I will caution that I would not ask property-specific questions because this is a recorded presentation. So I don't know that you would want me answering a property-specific question in this kind of forum where the recording is going to go up on YouTube and it's also going to go up on the township website. So general questions, and if you ever have a property-specific question, feel free to call me in the office during office hours or email me, and I'm happy to go over any property-specific questions with you. So here we go. I'm gonna share screen. Let's see if I practiced earlier. We'll see if we could do it. Let's see if this works. Can you guys see my screen? If anyone wants to let me know in the chat, that would be great. Hopefully you can see my screen. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so wonderful. You guys are the best. Thank you. So this presentation is going to be going over, like I said, frequently asked questions, followed by a Q&A at the end about the annual reassessment program. I have it kind of going in a PDF format, and I have a printed version here that I might be looking down because I have written notes on. So here we go. So the first thing that a lot of people find confusing is the terminology. So there's revaluation, reassessment, and annual reassessment. A revaluation, I think, is what everyone is pretty much used to within the state of New Jersey. It's when a town is reassessed, ordered by either the Sussex County Board, or in our case, the Sussex County Board of Taxation, but any county board or the New Jersey Division of Taxation, they're going to order a revaluation typically every 10 to 15 years when a township's assessment base meets certain criteria. Frequently, that's the sales ratio in town or also the coefficient. Those are the two biggest criteria that a county board or the New Jersey Division of Taxation looks at when they order a revaluation. A revaluation is considered an emergency. And so a township can, I believe, often bond for that kind of a program. It's very costly to do a revaluation. I'm going to go over this in a little bit, but we just had one in 2020, and part of that revaluation was the township, as we all have experienced, we all have a new block and lot number now, right? The reason we have a new block and lot number is because the New Jersey Division of Taxation required Vernon to get a new tax map for the 2020 revaluation. The next kind of term that you might hear me throw around is reassessment. And a reassessment oftentimes will follow shortly after a revaluation. Again, certain criteria needs to be met. And actually more often than not, it's kind of like your ratio or your coefficient can't be so bad that a revaluation would be needed. It's kind of like a one-time fix of reassessment. And that can oftentimes the municipality will opt to do a reassessment because maybe there was a crazy shift in the real estate market, kind of like what we're experiencing right now. And then there's annual reassessment, which is becoming more popular in the state of New Jersey. There's 3 full counties currently in New Jersey that the entire county does annual reassessing. And then on top of those 3 counties, there's also many municipalities throughout the state, over 100 of them actually, who do annual reassessing. And so the purpose of doing an annual reassessment is to keep the assessments in line with market value at all times. So we're always going to have a 100% ratio, representing the ratio of sales versus assessments. Excuse me. And so that's the municipality. I'm going to take a sip, I'm coughing. Sorry, guys. So our annual reassessment is something that the municipality opts to do. We do need to fill out an application that needs to be approved both by the County Board of Taxation and the New Jersey Division of Taxation. But it is an optional thing, and it is becoming more and more popular throughout the state. This is Vernon Township's revaluation and reassessment history. I have a scratch in my throat, sorry. In 1994, there was a revaluation, and I have the prior year's ratio, which might not make too much sense right now, but I want to talk about it later. In parentheses. So in 1994, we did a revaluation. In 2009, we did a revaluation. In 2020, we did a revaluation. And in from 2021 through 2025, we're doing annual reassessment. I have the sales ratios in parentheses, and the one that I kind of want to talk about, or at least have you remember, is this one right here. The 2008 sales ratio for Vernon was 46.65%. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to highlight that one specifically when we start talking about appeals later. In 2019, our ratio was 105. So what that means is in 2019, the year before our 2020 revaluation, the majority of Vernon was overassessed. And so what I think a lot of people experienced is they got a letter of an assessment that's lower. And that's because our ratio, the sales were coming in below what we were assessed. As a very broad general rule of thumb, now there were some areas of town when I came here that the sales were coming in 20% higher than they were assessed. And so the ratio is one number assigned by the New Jersey Division of Taxation to represent the whole town. But in a town this size, one ratio doesn't actually really represent the whole town. And that's kind of where we have run into a problem in the past. This is the number one question that people ask me: is a reassessment going to raise my taxes? And I have a picture of a pizza pie here, so I need everyone to kind of just visualize your property taxes are paying the for the county, the school, and the municipal budgets, right? And so if you put all those budgets together for our total tax levy that needs to be collected through taxation, and this is how it's done throughout the entire state of New Jersey. This isn't just Vernon. Picture all that tax dollars that needs to be collected through property taxes. That dollar amount is a really large pizza pie. And what your assessment does is determine how big of a slice of the pie you have. And in New Jersey, that is going to be based on market value. So the overall reassessment is completely tax neutral. It doesn't change the size of the pie. What it does is it recuts the pie. So we're redistributing the tax burden based on market value every single year. But the total amount of taxes collected does not change. Another thing that I hear often is people come to me because, oh, my taxes are going up. More often than not, I would say maybe 1 out of every 10 people I speak to are calculating the taxes properly. So what I have here is just a very simple this is how you calculate taxes. So you multiply the tax rate for every $100 of assessed value. And I have 2 formulas here where you could do it, you could either divide your assessment by 100, then multiply by the tax rate, or you could move the decimal on the tax rate and multiply it by your assessed value. You can also, this is a, right here, this is a, oh, it's not gonna let me. Under the due column is a screenshot of the Vernon Township website. This is someone's actually, I took all their names and property information off it. This is someone's actual taxes. So you can see going back 2 years, what your actual taxes were billed and what you paid. What a lot of people do is under the don't column is they get their tax bill over the summer and then they add together third and fourth quarter of the current tax year with first and second quarter of the following year. That's not the right way to calculate taxes. The other thing people do is they'll take one of these quarters, typically third, because that one often goes out as an estimated bill, and then multiply by 4. That's not how you calculate property taxes. You have to remember that you've already paid half a year's taxes by the time you've received this bill in the summer. So this is the formula. For every $100 of assessed value, you're going to apply the tax rate. That's how you calculate your property taxes. It's confusing because while the taxes are calculated on a calendar year, because of the timing of when budgets are approved, like right now, this is the time that budgets are being reviewed and approved. We don't have a tax rate until usually June. And usually it's late June. So more often than not, people are not calculating their property taxes right. And they come to me frustrated, and I completely understand. And by the time they're done speaking with me and I kind of walk them through the proper way to calculate taxes, usually they leave happier than when they came to me. Where do my tax dollars go? Is another one. So this is just, and this actually comes on your tax bill, I believe. I'm not the collector, so I don't really typically handle the billing. In fact, I don't handle it at all. But this chart, I believe, comes on the tax bill, and this just kind of divides up where your taxes are going. So 24% of the taxes are covering the municipal budget. 57% is going to the school, and the rest is going to various different county categories. So this is just like a nice little chart so you can see where your tax dollars are going. And this is how it's done throughout the entire state of New Jersey. Our property taxes are funding 3 different essential budgets, so the county, school, municipal taxes. Why do an annual reassessment? So I kind of briefly touched on this when we talked about the ratio, and we're going to go into it a lot deeper here. Vernon is very large. It's something in the neighborhood of 70 square miles. We have 14,000 line items around. That's a very round number, but around 14,000 line items. And that consists of residential homes, commercial homes, resort properties, hotels, commercial buildings. We have the big Acme retail strip center. We have warehouses. We have really small seasonal homes. We have lakefront homes. We have large luxury colonial style homes. We have condo hotels that are residential units. So when you have a market that is diverse, like we do, the shifts in the market and market value is not equal. A lakefront home doesn't appreciate or depreciate the same as a hotel condo or the same as a warehouse. Not all areas of town are going to increase or decrease in value equally. Not all property classes, so vacant land, residential, commercial, they're not going to increase or decrease equally either. So the fairest way to make sure everyone's paying their fair share of that big pizza pie is to assess everyone annually, do the market study annually. Another reason, and thousands of people between 2008 and 2019, 1 tax appeals in Vernon. I don't think that's a big secret. I think a lot of people realize that that was going on. What I don't think people realize is what that actually means. Avoiding tax appeals, of course, benefits the town, but it also benefits the taxpayer because, again, if you just picture the amount of money that needs to be collected through property taxes as the big pizza, people winning tax appeals doesn't change the size of the pizza. What it does is it changes the size of the slice of the few who win. It makes their slice smaller and it makes everyone else's slice larger. So the township losing tax appeals is actually shifting that tax burden onto everyone who didn't win. And so between the years 2008 and 2019, just at the county tax board level, the municipality was losing between $3 and $13 million of rateables every single year. That is a lot. That is a lot. And I know when I read a lot of comments on social media, and I personally attend a lot of council meetings as an audience member, and I hear over and over and over again what people want in the town is for us to gain rateables. And no one wants to see a new rateable more than the tax assessor, trust me. So, and the reason people want to gain rateables is because they know that's going to lower the tax rate. So, and that's true, and that will happen. But the flip side of that is when we lose this amount of rateables every single year, what that does is it increases the tax rate because we still need to collect the same amount of money. So really it's unfair, the system of reassessing every 10 to 15 years during a revaluation and then, just let everyone file an appeal. That's not really fair to the people who don't want to take the time or just don't keep up with the market and know that they could win an appeal. And so remember when I asked you to remember that ratio for 2008, which I forgot, it was 46.65. That's still included in this tax appeal loss. We still lost, I don't know the number specifically for 2008, but it's somewhere between the 3 and the 13 million. So when you have a 46% ratio, that essentially, we'll just round it to 50%, right? That essentially means homes were selling for a lot more than they were assessed, and yet we still lost a lot of rateables during appeal. And the reason that happens is going back to this, because not all property classes and not all neighborhoods in Vernon increase or decrease in value at the same rate. And so what an annual reassessment does is just make sure everyone is always assessed correctly. We're always paying our fair share of taxes. And that helps both you and the township. I say here that it's taking the burden of filing a tax appeal off the property owner. I actually have a really good example of this. Someone reached out to me this week, end of last week, about filing a tax appeal. And they were talking to me about their 2020 value. And I said, well, we lowered it already for 2021, like we got you. So he actually doesn't need to file the appeal. The reassessment captured the correction in his assessed value for him. He does not need to file the appeal. So that's what I mean when I say we're taking the burden off. Let us do the market study every year. Let us make sure the assessments are right. That way, at least, you still can file the appeal if you feel the assessment is wrong, but at least the township is doing their part in maintaining the assessments at market value. This is another one of the more common points of confusion when I'm talking with people is the rate, how we're doing the inspections with the annual reassessment. So for a revaluation, which many people in this town have gone through a couple of them at this point, everyone gets inspected that year. So in 2019, all properties were inspected for the 2020 revaluation. we had a residential entry rate of about 70%, which isn't terrible. It's, you know, I would like to see it higher, but, you know, it's okay, especially for as many, you know, seasonal and not year-round residents we have. You know, it was an okay entry rate. But now for the reassessment, everyone gets reassessed every year. So this is very important. 100% of the properties in town will be reassessed every year, but only 20% will be inspected. So last year we had COVID. And so we also had just completed a year of inspections for the revaluation. And so last year, what our focus for inspection were anything that, so we weren't upsetting residential property owners because of COVID and everything that was going on in the world. We inspected all the commercial properties, all the exempt properties, all the vacant lots. And then we did need to inspect more to hit the 20%. And so we inspected all recent residential sales for the 2021 reassessment. So that means for the next 4 years, about 3,000 or so residential properties will need to be inspected. This year, 2021, we'll be inspecting for the 2022 reassessment. We're going to be inspecting Berry Lakes, Lake Wanda, Highland Lakes. Oh, I just see a question. Sorry. What percentage of homes were reassessed at 30% higher than the value last year? I'm going to get to that, Chris. I'm just reading your question. I'll get to that. I actually have that on a slide. Not many. Only one area town actually is sticking out in my mind. So anyway, so inspections for this year is going to be Berry Lakes, Lake Wanda, Highland Lakes, and then there's, you know, a few really smaller areas over bordering West Milford near Warwick Turnpike. Those are the properties that are going to be inspected this year. So if you don't live in one of those communities, you're not going to be inspected. You'll be inspected over, you know, either next year or the year after that. The inspection process, I have a sample letter on this slide. This letter is what gets mailed out. It's a form letter. This is going to be mailed out in the year that you'll be inspected. So you'll only receive this letter if you're going to be inspected that year. And it kind of goes over the reassessment and just lets you know, hey, you're going to be inspected this year. Here's what to expect. The Associated Appraisal Group, that's the firm we've hired to assist us with the annual reassessment program. Their website, and I also maintain the Vernon Township's reassessment website, and there's always, I keep it updated, so we almost always have a link on the front page of the Vernon Township website. I update that regularly, as does Associated Appraisal Group, their website, with inspection progress. All inspectors will have photo identification, and they'll be registered with my office as well as the Vernon Township Police. All inspectors are required to wear masks, and there is the New Jersey Division of Taxation has approved, due to COVID, virtual inspection through either FaceTime or Zoom. So if you're not comfortable letting someone in your home because of COVID, maybe you're high risk or you have someone at home that's high risk, there is a virtual option. As long as you have the ability to either FaceTime or use Zoom, you can have an interior inspection done that way. The inspection itself really only takes about 5 to 15 minutes. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. So the inspection process on the first attempt, it's unannounced. I get a lot of phone calls about that. It's going to be unannounced. It explains that in the letter you receive as well. It's not possible to schedule the first visit with 3,000 property owners, unfortunately. So the first visit is unannounced. The inspector does not expect to get into your home on that first visit. They're really there because it's light outside, there's daylight, and so they're going to verify the exterior information. They're going to knock on the door. They're going to see if someone's home over the age of 18 available and willing to let them do the interior inspection to get it out of the way. If not, if you're home, you're just a little taken aback that someone's there, it's okay to let them know that now was not a good time. Or if you're just not home, they're going to leave a tag like this orange one on your front door. It'll have your block lot, and it will have a date and time and an inspector number that they plan to return. Typically, the return inspection will be in the evening because most people work. And so the reason a lot of people aren't home during the day is because they're at work. So that appointment will almost always be in the evening, sometime between 4 and 7. On that scheduled appointment, they're going to come back unless you call to reschedule. There is a phone number that you can call to reschedule if the time they left is not good for you. So when they come back at that scheduled time, they'll be expecting to be allowed inside the home. And the inspection itself, depending on the size of the home, will take anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. If no one's home at the time of that second visit, they're going to leave this like little greenish, yellowish tag. And this is an estimate tag. Again, I'll have your block lot, a phone number to call to schedule an inspection. And if any of this information on there is wrong, you're going to want to schedule an inspection. So they're going to have like number of bathrooms, if your basement's finished, if your kitchen's updated, that kind of thing. And if any of it's wrong, you're going to want to call them and schedule an inspection. After the inspection process, the appraisers at Associated Appraisal Group, along with myself, we have to determine market value for everything in town. So the way we do that, this is called mass appraisal. A lot of people will come to me and they'll say, I want to see my appraisal report from the reassessment. And I say, well, we don't have a big report for every property in town. That's not how property assessment's done. It's not like if you were to refinance and you would get a big thick report that's like 50 pages long and you'll have like 3 specific comps for your property. That's one type of appraisal. The way assessments are done is called mass appraisal. And so what we do is we divide the town into neighborhoods. And this was done during the revaluation. And the neighborhoods are based on zoning and location within the condos. And this isn't for all condos, but in certain condo developments, a neighborhood might be a specific model. And so then we do a sales study for every neighborhood. And the date range that we focus on is October 1st to October 1st. So for the 2021 reassessment, that was October 1st, 2019 through October 1st, 2020. That's the focused time frame that we're looking at to determine market value. And the reason we do that is because October 1st of the pre-tax year is a statutory date in which your assessment has to be valued as of October 1st of the pre-tax year. We also look at older sales, mostly for trending purposes, and occasionally we'll look at stuff that's under contract too. But because we don't know what it's under contract for, we don't put too much weight on that. We really want to look at the sales that have closed, and then we will kind of go back in time to trend the market. Like in this past reassessment, there were some homes that sold in 2019, they sold again in 2020. And that actually helps us trend like, well, what is the rate of increase in the seller's market we're experiencing right now? And so we do that for every neighborhood. And then that market study builds a model for valuation within each neighborhood that everyone's data gets plugged into. And that's how we come up with your market value. Speaking of market value, we have market price versus market value. Someone asked me about this today. Someone just bought a home in Vernon, and they paid whatever they paid for their home. And I explained to them the annual reassessment, and they said, oh, well, so you're going to assess me at my sale price? I said, not necessarily. So market price this is an actual sale in Vernon. This home sold January 7th of 2020 for $432,000. That's the market price for the home, but it's going to not be assessed at $432,000. And sometimes that confuses people. They'll come and say, hey, I'm assessed at X, but my neighbor, that house just sold for $432,000, but their assessment is a little low. Well, the reason it might be a little bit low or a little bit high from what it sold is because we're reviewing all sales within that neighborhood to determine market value for everybody. So it should be in the ballpark of what it's sold for, unless for some reason it's an outlier sale. But no one is really going to be assessed exactly what the sale price is for. And so the difference between market price and market value is market price is what someone paid for the home versus market value is determined by reviewing all the sales. All right, so this Christopher, I keep calling you Chris, like we're on a nickname basis, sorry. Christopher, this is gonna kind of answer your question. You can download this on the Vernon Township website. And this is the tax impact worksheet. You can download this on our reassessment page. You can see there's a link to it right on the Vernon Township front page of the Vernon Township website. This is the 2021 tax impact. We made this public. There was an estimated one made public when the preliminary values were mailed, and this is the final one. And at the bottom, I have it broken down between just residential properties and then all property classes, how many properties go up and down in tax dollars. This isn't really necessarily assessment, but it's kind of answering your question. How many homes went up more than $1,000 in taxes versus how many homes went down more than $1,000 in taxes. That's what this kind of tells you. And it also gives you a big picture view of what the reassessment is doing. And so I can't really, because we're still going through the budgeting process, not just at the municipal level, but the schools and the county, we don't know the tax rate yet for 2021. And so a lot of people come, well, what's the bottom line? What's this going to do to my taxes this year? Well, the truth is, I don't know. But what I can talk to you about is tax impact. So what was the tax impact of the reassessment to the town as a whole, but also to your property specifically? And so what we do is we take the total aggregate assessed from the prior year, so 2020, and then we divide it by the total change to the aggregate assessed after the reassessment. And in this case, the impact to the 2020 tax rate would be to lower it from 3.130 to 3.061. Now, huge disclaimer that this does not take into consideration any change to the municipal, school, or county budgets. This is strictly just the impact to the tax rate or your taxes based on the reassessment. And so actually, you can download this on our website, this worksheet. It's available for everyone to see. But just some highlights. So approximately 40% of the town is actually seeing a negative tax impact as a result of the 2021 reassessment. And then 75% of the town is seeing what I would consider, now everyone has their own standards, but what I would consider a small impact between $0 and $250 tax impact, either up or down. So either, that's like a $500 swing, right? Up or down, $0 to $250. But it's just math. And so again, you could download this at the Vernon Township, vernontwp.com on the reassessment page. Everyone can view this. Assessed value is a direct ratio to tax. That's not necessarily true. Chris is saying that the assessed value is a direct ratio to tax impact. So a 30% increase in assessed value equals a 30% increase in tax costs. That's not necessarily true because for the most part, there's exceptions to this. Not everyone saw an increase in their assessment, but the township as a whole saw, as you can see here, essentially a 2% increase. So if you saw a 30% increase in your assessed value, then yeah, you're gonna be one of these higher impacted properties, but it's not a direct 30% to 30% increase. Here's two examples. These are real life examples of two properties in Vernon that represent 75% of the town. Here's example one, where they're going to see a slight increase to their tax as a direct result of the reassessment. Here's example two that will see a slight decrease to their taxes as a direct result of the reassessment. And again, this is just without any change to the budget because we don't yet know what those changes will be. But 75% of the town is going to look kind of like these two examples. That really kind of wraps up my presentation of frequently asked questions. I am going to unshare my screen and then I can see hands raised if people want to talk. Just hang on. Let me figure this out. There is, there's one area of town going back to the 30% increase, a specific lake where the lakefronts are seeing a large increase. It's the only one that's really, that stands out in my mind as being in that situation. So Chris, I'm not sure if you live there, but I would invite you to call me during the week if you want to discuss your property specifically, or if there's a property in mind that you want to discuss specifically. We do have a raise hand feature. If anyone wants to ask me a question about the reassessment or assessments in general or anything at all. Oh, we got Maria. Okay, let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, Maria, you just have to unmute yourself. Can I do it for you?
I sent you a question on the question and answer forum. I don't know if you can see
Oh.
it. If not, I can see that.
Oh yeah, you're going to. Do you want me to read it out loud?
Sure. Maybe
Okay.
has the same question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So your home value went up $30,000 from 2020 to 2021, which included incorrect information, having a fireplace, which you don't have. You have a private assessment. So I'm assuming you mean a private appraisal for $10,000 less than the Vernon reassessment. What can you do about this? I would actually, in this case, if you don't, in the case of a fire, I would actually, number one, tell you to give me a call, because if the fireplace is the only thing we're off on, and I don't know for sure, I'm going to try to look you up real quick, but I don't know if it's worth it to you to file an appeal, but I would, whenever someone comes to me with this situation, I say, listen, if you really don't think that you could get what you're assessed for at fair market value, I would say file an appeal. So that would be your course of action at this point. Once the tax list is finalized, the only course of action for a current year change would be to file an appeal. And in a case like this, it's probably something real simple where we need to just come out and do an inspection to remove the fireplace. You could submit the appraisal report with your appeal. I will let you know that unless it was written for the purpose of a tax appeal, it's not actually usable for your appeal at the county level, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to look at it. I'll still look at it. But that would be my advice, would be to do the paperwork for the appeal if you think it's worthwhile, if it's just the fireplace. If it is just a fireplace, then you don't really want to think it's a $25 fee to file an appeal. You don't feel like filing the appeal, we'll come do the inspection anyway. I can change it for next year, but I can't do anything without an appeal being filed for 2021. I hope that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that would be what I would tell you to do. I don't know if there's anyone else. Any other questions? Thank you, Jesse. Maria, no, I'm not telling you nothing can be done for 2021. I'm telling you, you have to file an appeal with the Sussex County Board of Taxation in order for something to be done. It's kind of, it doesn't really make sense, but a tax assessor actually cannot make a change to someone's assessment once a tax list is finalized. There's three ways I can change an assessment. One is through an appeal. The second one is through an added assessment. So if you make an improvement to your property, then I can increase your assessment for the year. And then the third would be before the next year's tax list change, I can do something. So if you file an appeal for 2021, then we can come do the inspection and make a change that way. But I can't just do it without that happening. Is there any other questions? And again, property specific questions, I'm always available to talk about them, either over the phone or I can schedule appointments to meet in person. I've done that for several people. Here's another Q&A thing. I'm not the best at this. How do we find your phone number to call me during the week? We can find it on the Vernon Township website. And as embarrassing as it is, I don't actually know it off the top of my head. It's 973-764-4055. I'm extension 2226. I'm here, and then I also have two assistants that are wonderful that they can help too. But you could, if you want to speak with me directly, which I would definitely recommend for your situation, just ask for me. And if I'm not in the office for whatever reason, I will call you back. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to take them. I don't see any others. So I'm gonna wish everyone a nice evening. And I hope everyone found this informative, even a little bit. Again, I do try to keep the Vernon Township website updated with our progress. And we are pretty transparent about the whole process between the Vernon Township website and also the Associated Appraisal Group website. There's a lot of information to be found about where we're at in the process or last year's reassessment. There's a lot of information posted for people to review. But if it's, and then again, I'm always available to answer any questions about your properties specifically. So if there's no more questions, Maria, I don't know if Maria, if you had another one or if your hand's just still raised or. I think it's still, okay. All right, sounds good. So everyone have a nice night. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have a question about your assessment or just about the reassessment in general. And again, this is a new process for all of us in Vernon. And it's, we're gonna have a lot of questions along the way and eventually become something we're all used to. Have a nice night. Thank you for attending.